And in the same, like I said at the very beginning, survival sex work, I hate that term. Everybody works for survival. So the people that are working sex work for their survival, that's not different than the people who join the military for their survival. It's not different than the people who do any other job for their survival, except the conditions are worse because it is criminalized and because it is stigmatized. And the media painting this untrue narrative like facilitates those things.
You're listening to The Pelvic Freak Show
with your hosts, Amanda Neary and Hannah Meyer. Hey, Pelvic Freaks. Welcome back to another episode of The Pelvic Freak Show.
Where you're freaks for us and we're freaks for your pelvis, baby.
And welcome to The Pelvic Freak Show, Roxie.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We're so excited to have you. Guys, we are extremely excited today. Excited, in fact, that we're going to record a 2-part episode because of how many things we want to discuss. So, in part 1 of this episode, we'll be discussing sex work and what it is, the history of erotiphobia, the whorearchy, and stigma around it, and why talking about sex work is important. And then next week, if you tune in part 2, we'll be diving into sex work from the healthcare lens. So this is where we'll be discussing the patient and practitioner experience, barriers to care, and how to create an inclusive healthcare space for sex workers. Also in part 2, we're going to answer any listener questions that were submitted about sex work. So we are extremely excited for these episodes for so many reasons, one being the importance of the topics themselves that we're going to be discussing. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our very special guest, Roxie. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Hi. My name is Roxie, or for the government name, Roxxie the Riveter.
Love
it. That's my full name. I am a pole dance instructor, a stripper by trade, a Pilates instructor and teacher trainer, and also the owner of CoreBound Pilates, which is a studio geared towards rehab, prehab, and also hosting community events and just general activism.
Love it.
Amazing.
I mean, that's what drew us to you to film this podcast episode because, well, one, Roxie is an instructor at the studio that both Amanda and I go to because you guys know that Amanda and I both do pole dancing. So that's how we know Roxie, right? And then also in the Pilates world, we know you because you do CoreBound and obviously we love Pilates. But then also when you're on social media, you're posting a lot of activism specifically for sex workers. And I'm like, oh, that's so fucking cool. And I want her on the podcast so bad. So then finally when we got around to what we wanted our topic to be, we were like, okay, let's reach out to Roxie. And then now we're here. So
that was so exciting. It made me so happy. I was like, yes, so much yes. Because I feel the same about you guys. You're destigmatizing pelvic health, which is something that's traditionally very hard to talk about and people are very uncomfortable about, which is similar to sex work. It's very taboo, so people just kind of ignore it. And that's not the way we want to go. So when you guys dropped your podcast originally and then with the rebrand, I was very drawn to it. I was super excited to be asked to join.
Hey. Well, tell us a little bit about CoreBound. And honestly, just tell us a little bit about your history. What happened to get you where you are now? What's going on in your life?
That's so funny. That's such a loaded question.
It's a loaded question, yeah.
We've got all day.
No, we've got 2 episodes to get through this, so no worries.
I love it. Where to start? I'll start with CoreBound because that's kind of the current venture. I'm definitely someone who has lived many lives and I intend to live many more. So this is my current era. It happened kind of on accident, thanks actually to sex work. So,
good.
Yeah, I moved to Chicago less than 3 years ago. It was March of 2023. And I had a corporate job after transitioning from the military. And I was like, I cannot do this anymore. This is not for me. So I ended up quitting my job and I kind of made a bunch of different career arcs trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I ended up being called to Pilates. I thought it would make me a better pole instructor. And I knew that Pilates instructors got paid a little bit more for their classes. So I was like, that seems like a good skill set to kind of aid teaching pole, which is something I had been doing for a while. I've been coaching for 15 years. The modality changes depending on the season, but pole was the current modality. So I went into a Pilates teacher training program at FFC, Fitness Formula Club. And it was very serendipitous because I did not do much research at all. I was like, this seems like a good enough program that has everything I need and want. And so I just signed up and started teacher training. And while I was in teacher training, I was working at the club to support myself financially and to just kind of have time flexibility and a little bit of extra income. And as I was going through teacher training, I got really in it with Pilates. I felt my body completely transform and recover from all of the years of damage from being an athlete as a kid, from being in the military in a way that I was like not expecting. And then I looked in the mirror. I was like, oh, dang, those are my abs. That's crazy. It was like a very wild thing to witness because I just kind of like blindly followed the program. It's like, wow.
So true. Pilates literally makes your abs like pop AF. My body completely changed when I started doing Pilates.
Yeah.
And helped me with pole too. Like we've talked about that on this episode. Or not on this episode, on this podcast, I mean.
Yeah.
But crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. It was crazy. And my cohort of people was very supportive. Like we were a very like tight-knit group. We worked together a lot. It was really cool to like go on this journey with all of those people. And it was like just kind of like a thing I was doing in isolation because I didn't know a lot of people here and I was very much like in a cocoon phase. And then as I was like nearing the end of my program, the gym that I was working at was saying like, we're going to be selling off some equipment. Like if you are interested, let us know. I was like, okay, put me on the list, thinking like nothing fast happens in corporate. So it's going to be a year, 2 years, like whenever they get around to replacing the equipment. And then it was like 6 weeks later, hey, do you want to buy these equipments? Because we're going to be getting new stuff for the studio. I was like, I mean, I got money, I'm at the club. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. I will find a way to use them. And then I was originally just going to store them in the basement until I found a purpose for them. And then I was like asking the owner of the Brass Ring Pole Icons community, like, hey, could I set one up down there? Could I make it like a personal training space? And then I was like, could I set all 3 up down there and make it like a little studio/community space? And so then it kind of just happened like in succession, boom, 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 like got the equipment, put it up downstairs. And then it was like, literally a year ago, like this month, we were like on the home stretch of getting it all ready for December so that it could open in the new year.
Yeah, I remember when you launched.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I remember I thought that feels like it was so long ago, but yeah, that was like literally last year, wasn't it?
Last year. It was crazy.
Amanda and I took a CoreBound session with Roxie yesterday, guys, and the studio is so cute.
You guys crushed it.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Every time I like go into Pilates, I'm like, I get to lay down and relax, and then I'm like,
You know what? I love horizontal exercise.
Yes.
I love it. Doesn't mean it's easy, but
Correct.
I do love it.
I say that all the time. I'm like, my whole workout's on a bed, guys. It's great. Like I'm just laying here. Like breathe in, breathe out.
Yeah, that was an amazing class. And when you opened, I had been dancing at Pole Icons for maybe like 2 months at that point. So I just never knew anything different. So I didn't even remember that it didn't exist before that. So it just feels like ingrained in the experience there.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I felt like before I opened the studio, I had been kind of planning some community events for the space. So we did like Pole in the Park last year. We did like a Pole summer camp where we did like a river float an hour and a half away. And we were just kind of like throwing stuff at the wall. I refer to myself as we sometimes, not just I. So
no, I do that too.
The collective we. Yeah.
I do that too all the time.
Yeah, I love it.
I'll be like talking to patients and I'll be like, so like, what brings us in today? I'm like, I mean, not me, you. What brings you in today?
Yeah, why are we here? But yeah, I had been doing that already and I felt like CoreBound would be a good way to facilitate continuing to do that with a little bit more autonomy because that's something that I really value and something that I see a lot of sex workers doing and wanted to lean more into.
Yeah, community is so important. I mean, we talked about it on our one episode. I forget what we titled it, but when we were talking about fighting fascism and how important it is to show up for community, but not even just like it's just specifically for like community events, even if it's just like to get together and like celebrate something or like have fun or just like how you do your clothing swaps and everything like that. So I love that you created that space for yourself.
Yeah, it's so much fun. It's like a reclamation of growing up in the church. My family's very conservative and very religious, which not all of that is bad. Some of it was good. Like the church community that my family was a part of, I grew up like removed from my family. We moved to California and my extended family lived in Ohio. But the community in Ohio, every year they would have like this huge Greek festival as like a fundraiser for the church. And they would have all these different vendors and all these different community members. Everyone like played a part in that church community, whether it was like the women's organization or the youth group. And everybody would like show up for each other when they were in need. And that was like probably the best thing about the church, and I think why a lot of people find religion. And the unfortunate part is that it can be used to brainwash you into participating in fascism, but it can also be a helpful tool in learning what it means to create and sustain a community. And that it's like the fun times, like you need to have connections with people in good circumstances to feel safe and trusting them in the not good circumstances. So we think about like, activism as doing all the hard stuff that like no one wants to talk about, but you have to do the fun stuff too, because if you miss that part, the hard stuff will never get done.
I love that take about religion too, because I also grew up in a conservative religious environment. And there are, sometimes I catch myself, I'm like, there are like pieces of it that I didn't hate and don't miss, and that I do miss sometimes. And it's exactly that. It's like the building community with each other. But we find that in so many other healthier ways.
Absolutely.
In our adult lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And we found, I mean, this podcast, a lot of it is activism too. So
Yes.
that's why this topic today is so important to us. So I do want to know, how did you choose your stage name?
That's so funny.
Yeah, I want to know.
That's a great question. So when I used to be in the military. Backstory.
What were you in the military? Were you in the Navy?
Yeah. I was
Okay.
in the Navy.
Yes. I thought so.
Yeah. So it's so funny because one of the things I wrote down for this conversation is the term survival sex work. And I hate how much I hate that term because like, who doesn't, like, we all work for survival. Money is the same thing as food. It's like the same thing as shelter. Like money facilitates survival. We all make different decisions, like with the work we're going to do for survival. And survival sex work is an annoying term to me because like my survival work was joining the military. Felt like a way out of my hometown, felt like a way to like, no knock to my caregivers, but I knew they were not going to be people I could fall back on. So when I left home, I was like, I'm out. And the way that I thought I would do that was by joining the military because I got a full ride scholarship to college. So I had no debt. I knew I was going to have a guaranteed job when I graduated and some sort of like on the job apprentice style training, which is what I wanted, that it would set me up for success. And I grew up believing that the military was a good organization for people who wanted to serve a noble and good country. So learning through experience that was not the case was kind of my like one-way ticket out of the military. And I actually got out of the military in 2022. Yeah, end of 2022. But I came back from deployment in 2020. So I was deployed during the pandemic. We were on a ship. We broke a world record, actually. We spent 206 days at sea.
Oh my gosh.
What was that like?
Yeah, it was crazy. It really brings out the worst in people.
I bet. I bet.
But it was, I like had kind of been on this journey of like 2018 to 2020. Like I need to do something different because this does not feel the way I thought it would. And like, if this is what the rest of my life is going to be like I can't, like this cannot be it. And I was very lonely, very isolated, like had no community, had no friends, had no support. It was like just the dark ages of my life. And so when I got back from deployment, I was like, I'm going to pick one hobby and do one thing for myself 1 hour a week. And that ended up being pole. And so through pole, I ended up finding burlesque, which was kind of my like, I dipped my toe in the pool of sex work many times before I dove like all the way in.
Yeah.
Burlesque was kind of like that gateway drug. And when I joined a burlesque troupe, it was like, you need to pick your name. My alter ego name had always been Roxie. And my best friend from college, my name in her phone is still Roxie Sparkle Tits because that was just like my whole persona from college. But I knew I was going to dance as Roxie, and then we needed full names, full government names as our burlesque names. So I was like, I love triggering military men. So I was like, let's make my burlesque name a play on the military. So I went with Roxxie the Riveter. And now I really identify with like the term riveter and being like a fixer and someone who is kind of like that invisible labor of women that becomes visible in times of distress. I'm like, yeah, that's me. I feel that.
That might be one of the coolest origin stories for a name that I've ever heard, I have to say.
I try to think of a stage name all the time, and I'm like, I have no passion. I have nothing. I don't know where I'm grabbing from here.
It's
but,
so funny.
I mean, it kind of shows like, it just like, me and Amanda always say this, like whatever you're meant to be doing, like wherever you're going in life, it's supposed to be easy. So
absolutely.
Like, it was easy for you to come up with that. It's easy.
Absolutely.
Right?
I was thinking that too when you were talking about how CoreBound started. It was like, oh, the reformer or those towers just became available at the right time.
Yes,
to purchase. So that's awesome.
I always tell people like the path will emerge as you walk down it. Like you're not knowing where you're going, but as long as you are acting in accordance with your values every step and you're making values aligned decisions, like the path will emerge and you'll be like, oh, this is the direction I'm meant to walk, which is kind of like a stark contrast from how I used to think of like, I need a 5-year plan. I need a career. I need to know what I want to do every minute of my life. I need to be like locked in. Now I'm very much like, if it is meant for me, it will not require a tight grip.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. You should be a permanent member of the Public Freak Show.
You are a permanent member.
Compliment.
Well, so the biggest topic today of this episode specifically is to talk about how sex work is work, because in a lot of people's lenses, it is not, honestly. Like society has really brainwashed us in that sense. So can you tell us a little bit about the realities of sex work and like how it differs from people's perception? Or
Absolutely.
the everyday civilian's perception.
Yeah.
And even maybe take it back a step for listeners that just don't even know what sex work is.
Yeah, like
how do you
who are
define
sex
it?
workers?
Yeah.
Who do you include in that?
Yeah, absolutely. Sex work is a broad term coined by, oh my goodness, the name is escaping me. It's going to come back to me.
Margot St. James?
I'm pretty sure it's Margot St. James. She's the person who first coined the term sex work. And if it's not her, it's another like old pro who came before. I love the podcast, The Oldest Profession.
Ooh,
it's
okay.
where I've learned a lot about the history of sex work. The host is Caitlin Bailey. She's an old pro herself, and she's also a history buff. So her degree is in history. It's like her specialty. So she uses that skill set and also like the lens of comedy to tell really unique and different stories about sex workers. And it's really cool because I see myself and my friends in all of those stories, and I'm like, wow.
Okay.
Cool. Like, this is cool.
No, I love that. We'll drop that in the show notes for sure.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's Margot St. James. If it's not, I'm gonna get back to you and find out.
Carol Leigh?
Oh,
Is that
Carol
it?
Leigh. Carol Leigh. Yeah.
Carol
Okay.
Leigh.
Yeah. Okay. They were like buddies. They worked
Okay.
together. A lot of sex workers, like the pool of sex worker activists is small, and so they tend to all gravitate towards each other and like know each other and work together, and then they have their own communities kind of blossoming out from there.
Okay,
And the
cool.
Oldest Profession talks about kind of individual communities, and she talks about stripper rights and stripper wrongs. Like she does not discriminate. Like she will call out old pros too for doing shady shit.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I not supposed to swear?
No, we cuss a lot. We just had episode 69 oral sex recently. Like with theirs, you're totally fine.
Yes. Carol Lee. Anyways, the term sex work was kind of an umbrella term for all of the different things that fall into the general category of like providing sexual services for money. So that can be anything from full service sex work, like the historical prostitution term. Street-based sex workers also can include cam girls, people on OnlyFans, people making like pornography, people working in the strip clubs. General escort services. Like it is an umbrella term that is like anybody who's providing a sexual service for money. And the term sex work is very important because it is work. And people who do not think it is work, I think the reason for that is people think about sexual interactions as like consensual with chosen partners in a recreational way. So it's like you're doing this for fun with someone that you want to be having sex with. And so you're like, oh, you do this for money? That's crazy. But you don't ever really think about like, you know, what goes into like sourcing a client, making sure that you're safe, like taking care of yourself in a way that is like, okay, I'm providing this service for money, because it's the same as like other service-based professions. My Pilates coordinator at FFC, she told me that there's this term pink collar workers for people who are like service providers, like nail techs, lash techs, Pilates instructors, like the pink collar term. I feel like sex work is like a pink collar job.
No, so in preparation for this episode, I read a book, which we'll probably talk a little bit more about in part 2, but it's called Essential Clinical Care for Sex Workers. All right. Yeah.
Great read.
Essential Clinical Care for Sex Workers.
I think we all read it, right?
Yes.
All three
I think
of
we
us,
all, oh my God, yeah. But it's specifically geared towards mental health therapists and how they can better work with sex workers. And yeah, so we'll talk a little bit more about that book coming up. But one thing they mentioned in that book was how society's view is a Goldilocks approach to sex. Like if you have too much sex, that's not right. If you have too little sex, that's not right. You have to be right in the middle, that like
Sweet spot.
socially acceptable middle that's like, okay, you're having just the right amount of sex. And it's like, it's not our fault that we got here. It's just like somehow it happened and we just need to break that stigma.
Yeah.
Right?
And the fun thing about that Goldilocks sweet spot is it doesn't actually exist.
It doesn't.
Yeah. It's not real.
Nope.
So it's like people are playing by rules that are made up, trying to find a space for themselves that doesn't exist.
Or how people can like believe that it is real or believe that there's a sweet spot is just by like not talking about sex, which is also a problem.
The problem.
Yeah.
Huge problem.
Exactly.
And it's interesting, which this comes as a no surprise to us given the patriarchy, but the people that are stigmatized are the sex workers themselves and not the people receiving the service.
Absolutely. And honestly, I feel like
point.
this is, there's another really great read called The Ethical Stripper, which talks a lot about sex work in different forms and kind of like the issues with sex work in general and the sex work economy. And one of the like main points of that book is like, it is not the sex worker nor the receiver of the service that we need to be like focused on in this conversation. It is the people who are deciding who can be a sex worker, who can receive the services and how. In the same way that like, and capitalism is this way across the board, where it's like, there are people who like, I call it pimp behavior. It's like my favorite insult. I'm like, that's pimp behavior, like landlords pimp behavior.
Pimp behavior,
you don't
dude.
run this business. You don't contribute any value to this society at all. You just own this fucking building and then expect us to pay you for it.
No, literally. That's going to add that to the public dictionary.
Pimp behavior. But that's like the people who own the clubs. It's like they charge crazy house fees. A little bit about the strip club in general. You do not, it's like labor rights, sex work being work is like was a first step towards like opening the door for labor rights. And sex worker rights are at their core women's rights and labor rights and human rights. But in the labor rights category of all of that, considering sex work as work kind of paves the way for people to have workers' rights. Things like not having to pay to work and getting like a guaranteed hourly rate. Because sometimes you go to the club, you pay what's called a house fee, which is basically like renting the space for the night. That can be anywhere from like $20 to $200. Sometimes they'll make it crazy. If there's like a celebrity coming in, they'll be like, house fee is $500 tonight. And they'll do crazy stuff like that. People will go, they'll pay their house fee. Maybe they don't even make that money back. So it's like you've now worked 6, 8, 10, 12 hours and you've made negative money. And there's no like guaranteed wage. There's no like any sort of like paid time off. Who is she? Workers' comp. Who is she? Like health insurance.
Yeah.
Laugh. Like
Really?
It's like comical. So the term sex work is kind of like paving the way for sex workers to be able to advocate for labor rights that all humans should be deserving of, humans are deserving of. Like in exchange for your labor, you should be like fed back into from the system, not drained more by it.
Well, that's what kind of was leading into my next question was like, what was something that like surprised you about the field when you first joined, but that kind of like answered that,
so
right?
Like nothing. I feel like I dipped my toe in. Like I worked at a club as a bartender in college a few times, and I would like participate in amateur nights for fun. And I would always be like, okay, but what if? And I would like dabble in different ways, like as a bartender with like clients, like where I would stay like after bar close and get like tipped out to just like hang out with people. And I was like, this doesn't feel icky. Like this actually feels fine. Like I'm being paid for my time, which is nice. And then when I like finally decided I'm going to go work at a club, I had been doing pole for like 6 months, and I was like, you know what? This feels like the right choice. And so then I showed up, and my first night was like I was like, oh, this is great. Like it was way less traumatic than my best day in the military, which was crazy. And then I was like, wow, what's going on in my life that this is how I feel about this profession that I've heard all of this stuff about. I've like heard it's this exploitative field where everybody's like, nobody gets to consent and everybody's being treated like crap. And it's like this horrible, sleazy environment. And that was not my experience. Now, granted, like I want to preface everything I say about sex work with I am white, I am cisgender, I am like femme presenting, and I inhabit a body that is like going to be widely accepted and hired at most clubs. So that does shape my perspective of sex work. And I've always been like a part-time stripper, meaning it's never been something that I've done from a place of survival. But that was also part of my, like when I left the military, I made the decision to never make a choice for myself out of scarcity or fear or survival again. And so I made sure that like every decision I made from that point on was geared towards like, how will I be financially stable? How will I make sure my basic needs are met? I'm never going to like put myself in a position where I feel like my back is up against a wall, because that was what got me into the place of, being in the military and being deployed. And, if not for the pandemic, Lord knows the war crimes I would have had to commit, because I see the war that's happening now and I'm like, oh, fuck, like that's the deployment we were on, And then the pandemic hit, which like in so many ways was horrible, but for me, I'm very grateful for, because it really rerouted my life before I was like having to participate in things that I did not ever want to consent to. Sex work never asked that of me. Sex work always gave me the opportunity to consent, and that helped me understand and kind of learn in real time like where my boundaries were, and also like things that I had consented to for free, like things that I was not actually okay with. I was like, oh my goodness. Like it reshaped my whole understanding of myself.
That's actually such an important statement that you just made. So thank you for sharing that with us. Seriously. Like, wow. But like, I'm so happy you're here today to talk about these things, because like so many people probably have the same perceptions, or definitely do. And this episode, if you guys are like uncomfortable, or if it makes you feel uncomfortable, like that's the point. Like it's supposed to like open up this conversation.
I like to ruffle feathers.
No, literally. And like also what you said too, like you're white, you're like more femme presenting, like cisgendered, right? So like we talk about like, even like when we talk about research biases, like in healthcare, it's mainly like, like women and like females in general are very underrepresented. And like in sex work, it's like even more like that. Like it's more just like viewed as something for like white cisgendered female, but there's so many other types of people that are even more misrepresented in the field. So that was a really important take too.
I feel like this segues well into media representation of sex work.
Yeah, let's do it.
Especially when we're talking about like military versus sex work in my own experience. Like I see this so clearly in media representation too. Like how many military movies are talking about like the guys being the heroes. But like what is a military pilot but the man dropping bombs on Gaza? Like I'm sorry. Tell me how that's a hero. Explain it to me. Like, make it make sense. You can't. But the media representation of what the military is like so crucial to the brainwashing in our psyche. The converse of military representation in the media, where it's like painting this very untrue picture of these people as these superheroes that they are not, is the tellings of sex worker stories. Like, I think about the movie Hustlers. I don't know if you guys ever saw. Yeah,
of course I saw that.
Yeah, fuck that movie. First of all, fuck that movie. No, and you know what sucks about it is they had actual sex workers like participate in the writing and making of it, but the story they choose to tell is this story about sex workers who are criminal and who are like robbing people, and their enemy, like they have this like ethereal enemy of like they stole from us, like that's stolen money, we got to take it back, but it's not like geared towards systemic. It's just like them being criminals and like it's showing the dirty sides, and I like that's just not the case. Like,
and of course it's like criminalization, of course.
Correct. Like the strip club everywhere is an opportunity for an opportunist. Like it is a dangerous environment because it is, but that's because it is criminalized. That's because of the people that are in charge of it. It's not because of the people working there. And the financial crisis of 2008 pushed a lot of people's backs up against the wall. So like that's the financial crisis that led me to join the military, because I never wanted to be in the situation that my parents were in or that I saw the people around me in, you know, like everyone is making less than great decisions when their back is up against a wall. The same thing applies in the strip club. But that media, like that movie is like one of the only representations of sex work in the mainstream.
Yeah.
I highly recommend P-Valley if you haven't watched it.
I haven't seen that.
It is a TV series told from the perspective of Black sex workers in Mississippi.
Important.
Yeah, and it's great. It's a great show.
Cool.
Yes, I will watch that tonight.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
literally. Yeah, the first episode.
We love a plug.
Yeah, it's so good. But it's like that is what my experience at the club was like. Like, and there's obviously like a dark side to it, but the dark side to it is racism. The dark side to it is patriarchy. The dark side to it is all of these things we're fighting in all of these other ways, not the actual sex work or the sex workers.
Right. Do you have any hot takes on Anora? Have you seen it?
I have not seen it because I've been told I shouldn't watch it.
Yeah, I figured that would be the reaction.
Yeah, I just am like, you don't get any of my money or my attention.
That's
I mean, it's hard finding media that has like actually good representation, but this is actually something I learned from the book too. There's like two main like stereotypes portrayed in media specifically. Like one's the damsel myth, which is like a sex worker that enters the field because she's like helpless and then is saved by like a man.
Anora.
Yeah,
is that what Anora is? I'm thinking of like the classic. What's the one with what's the movie? Like the blonde. She has the blonde wig.
No.
Pretty Woman.
Yeah,
Pretty Woman. It's like this similar in Pretty Woman, right? And then the other one is the no hope in sex work myth, where someone goes into sex work because they're at the at the bottom,
options.
right? There's no other option, or they're addicted to drugs, or it's just like very unsafe. And it's like, oh no, this is actually something that people can do healthily, and it's not portrayed at all.
Correct. I'm going to dispel both of those myths right now.
Let's do it.
The damsel in distress myth, I'm sorry, but sex workers save themselves. They go to the club, they make their money, they build their network, they build their community, and then they set themselves up for success. Like I look at sex workers who have done that for themselves in this community, not a white man found. I'm sorry, not one. Like I can't. I'm like racking my brain and I cannot think of one. The white man does not save the sex worker saves herself, themselves, whoever they are, you know? What was the second one? The no hope, no other options. I'm sorry. Before I was a sex worker, I was a nuclear engineer. I have plenty of options.
Yeah.
Right.
I every sex worker I know has like is educated. Like most of the people I know that are sex workers have degrees, maybe master's degrees, maybe PhDs. Many of them are putting themselves through school. Many of them are using it to facilitate things that they want. And those who do it because they want to, it's because they want to. And in the same, like I said at the very beginning, survival sex work, I hate that term. Everybody works for survival. So the people that are working sex work for their survival, that's not different than the people who join the military for their survival. It's not different than the people who do any other job for their survival, except the conditions are worse because it is criminalized and because it is stigmatized. And the media painting this untrue narrative like facilitates those things. Like legislation is not just badly written on accident, it's badly written on purpose, and they get away with it because of the media representation.
Totally. I mean, who has the white man helped in any scenario? Like, it's such a reflection of everything in the world.
Literally.
Which I think you mentioned when we were prepping for this episode a little bit, like how sex worker rights are at the intersection of all of these different political issues. And I found that really profound because it is something that I don't think a lot of people really think about.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Did you talk about that on this episode or we talked about that yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah.
Wait, can you talk about that a little bit? Yeah, recap. Give them a recap.
This is my dissertation. It's not, but it would be. But I think like the last couple of years have been really awakening to a lot of people because of the war in Gaza. And I feel like the Palestine problem sits at the center of like all of these different overlapping circles of authoritarianism. So patriarchy, racism, colonialism, capitalism, and ecocide. And sex workers also sit at the center of all of those issues. So every part of the problem that is authoritarianism, like we see it in Palestine, we're like, we know this is bad and we know this is worse than things that we've been seeing like throughout the world for centuries, but we can't like quite put our finger on why. It's the same thing with sex work. Like we tend to forget about sex worker rights, and like one of the many like authoritarianism playbook things that we do is like, you know, make everybody reactive, like throw so much stuff at them that they can't be proactive about what to do. They're just reacting to like the next crisis. And like, you know, right now the crisis is ICE, SNAP. Like there's so many things happening today that like we are reacting and responding to, so that we cannot think about like being proactive. And sex worker rights were like, okay, well, who cares about these girls and their little heels? Like, why are we thinking about them right now? Like that's not the most important issue. Like the most important issue is whatever the thing is that we're reacting to. But actually, sex worker rights are a canary in the coal mine for everything else. Like long before Roe v. Wade got overturned, FOSTA SESTA passed, these two pieces of legislation. And I think it's like something to end sex trafficking. I forget the acronyms, what they stand for, but they were like designed to, or they were sold as like we're ending sex trafficking. But all they did was make it harder for consensual legal sex workers to access clients and like access safety. And it did nothing to limit sex trafficking. And that was like a very much canary in the coal mine, that sex workers were like, hey, if this is happening to us, like reproductive rights are at risk, like your healthcare, your birth control, like all of that stuff is at risk. Like pay attention to us. We are trying to tell you. And everybody's like, no, who gives a fuck about sex workers? Like, we don't care about you, damsels in distress. Like we don't care about you, no other options people. But then like what happens 2 years later, you know, like it really, sex worker rights are human rights. They are labor rights. Like they are healthcare rights. They are, you know, they're rights.
Do you ever see like how the media portray? First of all, hell yeah, good job. I mean, pop off like I always have to like give snaps because Amanda goes on some like really good rants too, and I'm like, first of all, like valid. Like I love that.
I'll be in my car listening, and I'm like, yes, go on.
And I'm like, but anyways, second of all, do you ever notice like due to media portrayal when people are interacting with you or talking about sex work or like know that you're a stripper or like have been a stripper, like do you notice like how people talk to you like differently just because of that media portrayal? And like what's that like?
Yeah, it's really funny. I just don't, the people that know, like, well, now I have a lot more people that I can be open with because I have this supportive community that kind of insulates me. Yeah. But that was not the case for me 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. And like, thankfully the pole dance community has, like that being my on-ramp kind of connected me to people who were very supportive of sex work, but that was not the case. And my first pole studio was very whorephobic, was very anti-sex worker, which is crazy.
That's actually
just
fucking
unimaginable.
Wild. I mean, that's what I love about like the community that we have at like Brass and Icons, because like before any pole show that we do, like it is always talked about like, hey, first of all, like you're here for a pole performance, but like pole comes from strippers.
Yeah, not every pole dancer is a stripper, but every stripper is a pole dancer.
Exactly. And I love that we like bring that to the audience every time. We're like, hey, just so you know, we appreciate sex workers and let's go on right here. Here's the show. So
absolutely. There's some good like local artists doing really like meaningful representation of sex workers at like the smaller scale. Like last year I saw a play produced by a sex worker in the community called They Are All Our Sons. And that was like a telling of the Medusa Athena story from the perspective of two strippers in the club. Amazing. Wonderful representation of sex workers in the media.
Cool.
Things like the Sapphic Strip Club produced by 106 Fever, Cat Savage as the stage name. Amazing producer, amazing show, like presenting sex workers from all different backgrounds who may not get hired at the club. Like those are things happening in Chicago where you get to see a different side of sex work. And then there's almost always like, okay, we're fundraising for this event. Okay, like we're taking donations. Okay, like we're emailing our reps about this thing. Like all of those events have that element to them. And like the sex workers who are doing that work, like that's an important component of that work. And I think that's like just like if I could give anybody any advice in their journey for activism, it's like look to the community that you are a part of. Like stop thinking about philanthropy on this like big, another great book, Rec, Decolonizing Wealth, talks all about philanthropy on like the big scale, but like stop thinking about where you can donate your money out and start thinking about the people in your community right now surrounding you, like in proximity, and how you can support and help them, because that's like, that's all that there is. Like we only have each other.
Absolutely. And that removes that like parasocial piece to organizing, where it's like so many people feel helpless because it's like, oh, I opened my phone and I'm just seeing all these things that I'm not doing.
Yes.
But it's like, what are you doing in your actual community?
Exactly. Activism is a state of mind. It's something you do in every choice you make. It is not something you do once a month or when you donate occasionally or when you host a benefit show. Like it is an act of resistance that you take every day.
Love that.
Period.
In our chat about media representation, I thought of a follow-up question that isn't in the outline, but I'm curious what your take is on this. Because I feel like we have two personalities of people that talk about sex work and specifically strippers. And it's like this, oh, at least they're not a stripper, which we see in like TV shows. It's like, oh, like at least she's not on a pole, like that, like very outdated mindset about it. And then there's like these TikTok baddies that are strippers that are like almost swinging so far in the other direction where it's like making it such a positive experience, and everyone in the outlines or in the comments are like, hell yeah, like you go girl. And I almost feel like that takes it out of the like sex work is work mindset. And I'm just curious what your take is there.
It really does. Sex work is hard. Like not like everybody's like, I'm going to drop out and be a stripper. Ha ha ha. Good luck.
Yeah, dude.
Good
like, what the hell?
Luck. Yeah, good fucking luck. It's hard. It's marketing. It's branding.
That is actually such a term like that people say all the time. It's actually fucked up.
Yeah. Like how many times, if I had $1,
No, literally.
I wouldn't need to work ever again. But yeah, that's like, it's not easy. It is hard. It's like that's another dispelling of that myth of like someone who has no other options. Like, you're not going to go into the club when you have no other options and walk out with a bag. Like that's not going to happen.
Right.
Your energy, like you are selling an experience. That experience is your energy. So like if you don't know yourself, if you don't know what you're comfortable with, if you don't know what value you have to offer, then like you will not make as much money. And if you go into the club from a place of like insecurity or fear or like not having self-certainty, like stripper, I feel like the club helps me slingshot myself through like areas of my life where I'm like really struggling with self-esteem, because I go in there and I'm like, I have to get my shit together or I'm not going to make any money. Like I have to put my prettiest girl in the world outfit on and I have to walk in this door and be like, I'm worth $1,000 for this hour. I'm actually worth more than that. You're lucky to be seeing me at all. And like believe that and like operate with that, and then know how to make that sale in the moment with someone I have never met, who might have completely different beliefs, who might have completely different values. But it's like, it's hard work. And I think some of the girlies on TikTok, like they don't tell the full truth about like the dark sides of sex work and the hard sides of sex work. And I can definitely see myself falling into that camp, because compared to the traumatic experiences in the military, the strip club was, for me, a cisgender white woman, femme presenting, like not even, doesn't even come close. So I'm like, the strip club, that's not, like that's a great environment for me, but that's not the case for a lot of people. Yeah. And it's like, it is hard. It's hard work.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I was so curious about that, because something about it doesn't always sit right.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting just to hear your perspective. This whole episode, I'm like, any single person listening to this is going to learn something new.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I hope so.
Like I'm learning so much from you, and I'm so happy you're here, like sharing all of this with us. So thank you.
I can't tell you how badly I've been wanting to do this episode since like, honestly, since the beginning of this year. I did want to talk a little bit about the terms erotophobia and whorephobia, right? Erotophobia is defined as the fear of sexual expression, right? And then whorephobia is pretty much just like fear of sex workers, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, how does that show up for you in your everyday life? Like, how do you see that playing out?
Yeah. Patriarchy hates sex workers because patriarchy wants women to do free labor and sex workers are charging for that labor. And then men feel entitled. Not men. I mean, men are not the problem. Patriarchy is the problem.
Yeah.
And like white men are not the problem. Patriarchy is the racism is the problem. So I feel like people are like, oh, I hate men. I hate men. I'm like, men are not the enemy. Like we need them on our team. Like the problem is patriarchy. And the problem with patriarchy and like erotophobia and whorephobia is that in a patriarchal capitalist system, we expect women to do a lot for free, a lot of unseen, unpaid, undervalued labor. And when sex workers charge for that, women get mad because their partners are paying sex workers for a service that they're giving them for free. And they're like, oh, such a whore, like whorephobia, you know, like so many girls hate me because they're like, you're going to steal my man. I'm like, girl, I don't want your man. I don't want your man. Like, keep him away from me. Like, you have fun with him. I'm like, yeah. But I mean, how do you guys experience whorephobia and eroticism? I feel like, or and erotophobia. I feel like that's just a universal experience for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure. Like, I mean, when we talk about sex very openly, like so specifically erotophobia, right? I mean, there's some things where we're like, is this too much? Like, like, I mean, even with our most recent episode, like talking about oral sex, like we were like, should we cut this out? Like, did we go too hard? And it's like, no, like these are things that we need to talk about. And like hiding talking about sex is part of the problem, like I said earlier. So like, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah. You guys called it out really well. I think it was you who said like, this is new for a lot of people when they're young. So everyone's talking about it. And then that conversation kind of ends. And then you never really talk about it again.
Yeah.
And so like the same experience of like, we're talking about something that no one else is talking about and hasn't probably been talked about in many years.
Wait, are you talking about when Amanda said like when you were in high school, like you would talk about like giving blowjobs and like tips and like it's like you would read like the magazines and everything. And like, I noticed that too. I was like, damn, we didn't expand on that conversation at all. It's like that was such a good take. And like we literally just like went on a whole different like route. But that's so true. Like that literally is like what this podcast is about, is like those conversations that you like don't have anymore as an adult. And then we just become these like sexual stagnant beings that are just like going through ruts and going through life. And we're all just fucking depressed because we're not having orgasms. Like shit.
And like in our line of work, we obviously have to talk about these things from a patient lens.
Yes.
But patients that are experiencing this pain, they want to hear real people that have like had these experiences too. And so we'll always have someone in the comments like saying some shit about what we have to say on the podcast.
Correct.
But even like in opening this clinic, I wanted to make it very clear, like everyone is safe and welcome here. And you're free to like talk about whatever. And like, even like we have a pole in the break room and patients will ask like, is that a stripper pole? And it's still like stigmatized in that way in everyday life. And we're like,
actually,
yes,
it is.
Yeah, actually, yes.
Actually, yes, it is. And we do like to treat sex workers.
Yes.
We are open to everyone.
Yeah.
And we want to, if we have someone who is specifically like their job is being on the pole and you get an injury and then now you can't be on the pole, then I want you to try out your skills on the pole if you're here. So like,
I want to know how you got hurt so I can figure out what went wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what does a truly sex positive view of sex work look like to you? Because we've talked a lot about erotophobia, whorephobia. There's people that say that they're sex positive, but like, I mean, there's probably people listening to this episode right now that think of themselves as sex positive, but then these conversations are probably making them uncomfortable, right? They're like, what can I do to be more sex positive? So, I mean, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. There's a term, SWERF, sex worker, exclusionary, radical feminist. I feel like it was in that book, that Essential Clinical Care. But
it probably was, I bet.
Yeah. It's also, it comes up a lot, but it's like basically people who are like feminists except for sex workers.
Yeah.
And if your feminism does not include sex workers, it's not feminism, sweetie. Sorry. It's worth like deconstructing whatever like beliefs you have about sex workers to like consider that. Yeah. Another thing that happens a lot is like, oh, sex work is empowering. Like,
I had a question on how you felt about that too.
Yeah, like, does work have to be empowering? Some things can just be a job. Like, maybe it's not empowering. Maybe it's a thing you do for money. Like, I don't know, working at a bar, being a bartender wasn't empowering. It was a thing I did for money. It was still a job and it deserved to be like treated as such. So like sex positive to me, I feel like sex neutral. Like sex work is work.
That's so true.
Work is work. Workers' rights matter. Like that's the focus. Like let's not let the erotiphobia and the whorephobia cloud the picture. And the picture is like, we are fighting for workers' rights. We are fighting for human rights. We are fighting for autonomy. And all of those things apply to sex workers too. And probably more so than they apply to a lot of other professions because sex work is criminalized. And then decrim versus legalization. This is so important. I do not want to forget this. But sex workers, like the legalization. So like in Nevada, I'll just back up and talk about like a few different models of sex work, but
pop off queen.
There is because it's very important to understand, and I think people like don't quite get the nuance because anything that requires nuance, like people don't have capacity for. Right over that. But yeah, so with sex workers advocate for decriminalization of sex work. That's different from legalization. And another issue where we see kind of like the racism, like capitalism umbrella with all of this is with like marijuana. It's like, okay, what did the white man do? Put a bunch of black men in jail for selling and distributing weed and then stole their means of operation and then opened all these dispensaries to make a bunch of money off of it, tax it, regulate it, which I guess like, some level of regulation for drug production, sure, whatever. But like, what about all the black men who are in prison with felonies for the rest of their lives that have no future options? It's the same thing with sex work. So there's states like Nevada where prostitution is legalized, not decriminalized, which means there's very like rigid guidelines on who can be a sex worker, how full service sex work can be offered, and like what you have to do to, fit those guidelines, which means like, okay, if you don't get hired at the brothel, if you don't have enough money for the STI testings that they require of you at whatever periodicity, and if they don't want to give you a license because, racism, fat phobia, like all of the things that go into people not getting hired, like now you're engaging in sex work outside of that, legal, regulated environment. Now you're like at risk for criminal record. And then that's just another way to take people and funnel them into prisons because slavery is still legal if you are in prison. Like that reread the amendments, like it's there. Yeah, so that's why legalization is bad. That's why we do not want anything that advocates for legalization of sex work. We want decriminalization of sex work. And Illinois is super cool because we are actually the first state that's proposing decriminalization of sex work, which is sick as fuck. So the Keep Sex Workers Safe Act, right now it's like it's like been proposed. It needs to get to committee next. I don't know how much we retained from high school government class about like how a bill becomes a law.
Oh my gosh, not the Schoolhouse Rock coming into my head.
No, I don't. It's I don't remember, but I will share a QR code. There's one at the studio, and every time we have an event, I'm always like, scan this QR code, write to your congressman. Don't forget about sex worker rights because they are so important. And like decriminalization would be huge because then that makes events like Sapphic Strip Club, Pole Night, like events where people are offering like, sex work adjacent type things. Like it just gives us more like power back to do those things for ourselves without like that is truly eliminating like those people who are in charge of the club, like interfering with like the people who are receiving the service and the people who are providing. So decrim 100%. Yeah.
Decrim sex work.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I just learned a lot.
Okay, good.
Now I'm like, I have a million things I want to research after this episode.
And I got resources for you.
Sweet.
I got
amazing. We can also link some in our show notes for any
yes.
listeners that are interested in learning more about that.
There's one other thing that I want to talk about with this. It's called the end demand model or like the Nordic model where the criminalization shifts from the person providing the service to the person receiving the service. And there's like, it's like known sometimes as like the partial decriminalization. And I don't like that. That's also like a misnomer, kind of like, FOSTA SESTA, like we're ending sex trafficking. It's like leading you down a path to vote for something that you don't actually want or like you don't know that you don't want. Because when you criminalize the person receiving the service, clients are a lot less likely to engage in things that like help vet safety, like give you an ID or allow you to have like someone there in the space. Like because now it's like they could get in trouble if they do anything wrong. So they're very much like, let's fly under the radar. So it shifts like the burden onto the person receiving the service and receiving sex work. Like that is not bad. Like that is not a moral failing. I would so much rather someone come receive sex work from someone that they are paying than like have an affair and entangle somebody else's emotions and feelings in real life. Like sex work is not bad. Receiving sex work does not make you bad. It's just fulfilling a need, and like experimenting with something. It can be a great way to experiment with queerness if that's like new to you, you know? Like receiving sex work is not criminal. Providing sex work is not criminal. These should not be criminalized. Like this should be allowed for consenting adults who want to like participate in these things. So end demand model, Nordic model, partial decriminalization, all of those things kind of mean the same thing, and all of those things are bad. If it is not full decriminalization, sex workers are not advocating for it. Full decrim all day.
Hell yeah.
Hashtag full decrim all day.
Yeah.
Baby.
Yeah, that's my sex positive take. Is full decriminalization of sex work.
I also like backtrack really quick because I really like what you said about like saying like sex neutral. Like I feel like the term like empowerment, right, when we're talking about like sex workers in general, is I almost feel like an overcompensation where people like realize sex work is work, but they like almost like overcompensate in a way where they're just like, oh yes, girl, like pop off. It's so empowering, but like it's work, man.
Exactly.
It's the TikTok girlies.
Exactly.
That's what's happening.
I was just going to say that.
And when you were explaining your take on it, the first thought that came to my head was like body positivity too. And it's like we're shifting towards body neutrality, right? Because it's like your body just is. Like we don't need, it's not some moral failing or winning, whatever it is.
Period.
So
literally,
same thing for sex work.
I feel like, body neutral. I cannot yes that enough. I feel like I say that all the time in the studio. I'm like, your body just is. What is? Tell me what is. Like,
Totally.
I mean, I feel like we go through it all the time. Like me and Amanda 100%. Always preach body neutrality, and like we even go through phases where we're like, "Fuck."
Yeah, your inner battle is like unlearning things is hard.
100%.
I think a lot of people really struggle with that, and a lot of people that are listening to this episode probably said to their friends in college, like, "I'm just going to drop out and become a stripper."
Yeah, my friends in college, we all said that.
Yeah,
and then it's like here I am, and it's like I'm the most successful and happy.
Hell yeah,
and I'm like.
Before we sign off today, because we will talk about this in more detail and like specifically like healthcare and like for sex workers too in our next week episodes, there will be a part 2. But me and Amanda both pole dance, right? And we know that pole dance comes from strippers. Can you talk to us a little bit about the origin of pole?
Yeah,
and like, I mean, you were a pole dancer first too, right? So tell us about it.
Absolutely. This is something that like racism strikes again, whorephobia strikes again, like all of these things come back. But pole, the way that we do it, and like our little pleasers and our thongs and like throwing ass, like that comes from the clubs. Like that is something you see, like things that we see in the studio and we're like, oh my God, like that's just a Tuesday at a strip club in South Carolina. Like that's the movement happens in those environments. There's a lot of different like justifications for like, oh, I'm not a stripper, like don't associate me with sex work, how dare you, I'm an athlete, like respect me like one, you know. People will cite like Chinese pole, which is different than what we do in the studio. Like we're not climbing the pole with our hands and feet, and like we're not doing, like maybe we're doing acrobatics, but like there's usually an element of dance, there's an element of sensuality, there's an element of like connection and eroticism to it that does not exist in Chinese pole. But the original origins of sex work and stripping is like the sideshow, you know, people who are more marginalized, who are not fitting the mainstream like prima ballerina body, participating and just moving, dancing, putting on costumes. And because they do not fit that like white cisgender prima ballerina type aesthetic, they become like the sideshow act. They become like eroticized, fetishized. That's the origin of the movement that we have today. And there's a lot of different people who talk a lot about the history of sex work and the history of stripping specifically, like Kitty Velour on Instagram. She's a great like old pro, love her so much. She has a lot of things on her profile and things in her teaching that's like about kind of the history of sex work and how it comes from strippers. But basically like if you're on the pole, you better be okay with being associated with sex work. And you better be prepared to say, yeah, sex work is work. I support sex workers. I support the decriminalization of sex work. And that can be a full sentence. That can be all you say.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, the origins of sex work in general, like a lot of that can be rooted in slavery. A lot of that can be rooted in, you know, racism, colonization, like just so many like icky things, you know. Adding in consent is where we get to the place of like sex work is work. Adding in the decriminalization aspect, giving people choice. Like that is the journey that we are on, trying to like get away from like the icky roots of a lot of this stuff. Again, the unlearning is hard and it's uncomfortable. And it's like, oh, people did not always get to consent to this. I, as someone who has been able to always consent to sex work, like, I respect the people that came before me and that fought for their rights from a place of not being able to consent, and who fought for the opportunity to like have studio spaces for us to practice in and to share their art with us. Sex workers are very marginalized. Like, if you are a sex worker, chances are it's going to be really hard to get a credit score, a business loan, a lease on a commercial space to open a studio. So a lot of people who are not sex workers are the ones who open the studios and then claim that they're like pioneering the movement, which is like very icky for so many reasons. That was very much the vibe of like my first studio. Is like, you know, I'm a white woman with access to enough privilege to open this space, so like worship me for like bringing pole to the masses. Like,
Wow, yeah.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
That's a really interesting point. That's something I wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful that our community here is like not that way, because then people don't think about it like that, and it's just like accept the norm. The widely accepted norm is like sex workers pioneered this movement. Sex workers may have a hard time like opening these businesses because they are sex workers, but that's why we through community can support and provide these spaces, and like we all play our parts. So like the sex workers, like pole studios are wealth redistribution, in my opinion. It's like people who have the privilege to learn pole in a space of like, you know, safety with, you know, being taught the tricks and not just like
pole's expensive. Dude.
Yeah,
It's expensive.
it is. and it's a really good way to like reinvest in the strippers who are working in the clubs, because then it's a way to like balance out in the times where the club is, because it is a feast famine environment, you know, and like the economy is not good if you did not know, so it makes the strip club economy also not good. And so like having the opportunity to teach to like offset when the club is bad is like very, and to have that predictable income and that support from the community is crucial.
It's very nice.
Crucial.
Another thought that came to my mind when you mentioned ballerina at some point
Yes.
in your amazing speech there. Like, I don't even know what to call that. That was so
My rant.
On social media, we filter a lot of terms that might get flagged by like Instagram and TikTok. So like sex, we'll do SCGGS, like things like that. How do you feel about the term midnight ballerina?
Oh, that's so funny.
Oh my God. I remember when that came up with like Love Island. Like Love Island, it was like trending, right?
Because of Huda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, that's funny. I've never seen Love
Did you
Island.
see Love Island? Okay. We talked a little bit of shit about it earlier.
It was,
we were like, this is so toxic
good.
right now.
I love it.
Anyways, people were like, she was like throwing ass like so well. People were like, she's definitely a midnight ballerina.
That's funny. That's funny. I love that accusation. That's awesome.
Right. I'm like, thank you for the compliment.
Exactly. Exactly. Like,
If I can
thank
do
you.
it that well.
One of my students, whenever people would ask her if she was a stripper, she said her response was, "I'm not good enough to be a stripper." And I was like, "That's awesome.
That's literally what I say.
That's so funny."
I'm like, I wish I was that good. Damn.
So funny. But your personality's sexy. You'd make money.
Perfect.
You'd
Thank
make a
you.
bag.
Oh my
of
God. Thank you.
it. Your energy is a draw.
Oh, people say I have bedroom eyes. I think I could rock it.
Yeah.
Dude, she do be having bedroom eyes.
I love it. That's your moneymaker.
Perfect.
Yeah. I forget what the question was.
What did I
Midnight
Oh,
ballerina.
Midnight Ballerina.
Oh, yeah.
That's the name of a popular dancewear brand, like stripper wear brand, Midnight Ballerina. So I don't hate it because I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
okay. And they
More
also make
associated
like,
with the brand.
yeah, they make like cute glittery stuff too. That I was like when I was my origin story when I was like 7 and I had this like hot pink like glittery leotard that I would be like dancing around in my basement to, listening to my mom's like CDs, like always destined to be a hoe, but very very Midnight Ballerina coded. I feel like it's an okay way to censor. What are some other things? Spicy Accountant.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
That was like a few
Oh, yeah.
years
It's
back.
like, I am an accountant. It was like a trend on TikTok.
Yes. Okay, I remember that.
Nobody asks you what you do when you say that you're an accountant.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. No,
Literally.
literally so true.
Yeah. So to me, it just falls into that category.
Yeah, just some censorship.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. Well, I think that concludes part 1
Yes.
of our episode. So thank you all for tuning in. Next week, stay tuned. Please follow along with this series because next week we are approaching sex work from more of the healthcare lens. So as I said at the beginning of the episode, we're discussing the patient and practitioner experience, barriers to care, and how we can create more inclusive healthcare spaces. And we're going to answer your listener questions in week 2 that were already submitted. So sorry, it's too late. Roxie, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Do you have any final resources that we should include in this episode that we might not include in the next part of the episode. I don't know if that's the right way to phrase that.
That's so funny. I feel like the big ones would be the Oldest Profession podcast.
Cool.
Plug that. I have a couple of good episodes that I can send your way to.
Cool.
And then, I'll send you the episodes on Margot St. James and Carol Lee because that I feel like would be good.
Sweet.
And then The Ethical Stripper as a book, 100% recommend.
Amazing.
And then P-Valley.
Great. Oh, I definitely want to watch P-Valley.
That's what you should do tonight. That's what you should do tonight.
Amazing.
I'm so down. And if you guys want to prep for next week's episode, you can read Essential Clinical Care for Sex Workers, a sex positive handbook for mental health practitioners. So it's specifically geared towards like mental health therapists. But if you're a practitioner, if you're a pelvic floor PT that listens to us, it's a great book for you. We're going to kind of like dive into some more like healthcare topics next week. So that's a great resource for you as well, which we'll plug next week's episode too.
Absolutely. And after reading that book, I will say it applies not just to mental health. I feel like it's pretty universally applicable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everything in it, I was like, I can use that as a PT.
Absolutely.
No, I like it. All right, guys.
All right.
Well, Roxie, do you want to shout out your handle where people can follow you?
Oh, yeah. What is my handle? Roxie's Rebellion. ROXIES_rebellion on Instagram. That's me.
There we go. Okay, guys.
And would you like to do the honors of saying bye to the pelvic freaks?
Okay. Bye, pelvic freaks.
Bye, pelvic freaks.
Bye, pelvic freaks.
See you next week for part 2.